I could say the last year has been the hardest year out of the whole 17 I've been alive. It was the worst being able to wake up and not be able to walk, look at your mom and not even know who she is, and look at everybody in your family and not know who they are, try to talk, and you ain't got a voice. You got a plastic tube out of your throat. You don't know how it got there. My name is Corey Drake. I'm 17 years old, and I'm here to let you know a story that I have to tell everybody that hopefully some people will listen to. If you do use the knowledge that I do, you'll be good. Use common sense, you'll be good. That's one thing I didn't do, okay? What happened was, it was the day of July 22nd, 2004.
Today, Corey Drake is living a life that was violently changed by a simple mistake. In a matter of moments, his life went from being a sponsored skateboarder and successful student to a 17-year-old victim learning to live with permanent brain damage. Every day, he struggles to rebuild his life that was destroyed by a car crash. In this story, 6 other teenagers were not as fortunate as Corey Drake.
You don't forget about a kid one day, even a friend of yours. It'll be in you for the rest of your life. You'll always remember. Just like when one of your family members dies, you always remember it. It'll stick with you. And especially if it's somebody's parent's kid dies, they can't ever erase it, can't rewind the tape and come back and bring it back. He's gone. We can't live with him.
This is Sarah's bedroom. All of her stuff is still in her room. Her scent is here. You just feel her in this room. This is her room still.
Shannon Tia Toya Hopkins, well, she loved her name. It was amazing when we came up with it right after she was born. It kind of fit her. She was born October 23rd, 1987 at the Air Force Academy.
I met Terrence the first day of my sophomore year in biology class. I just thought he was such a cool guy. I thought he just had that spark in him, and you just right away, you could tell. He just would always say that he was Terrence the greatest, always imitated but never duplicated, the one and only.
Me and Terrence we've been like best friends since like midway through 6th grade, and we pretty much done everything possible together.
Me and Terrence and Marcus and Jonathan and the whole group we hang out with did all sorts of stuff together. We did football.
Here at Matt's house, we would get together and have a huge Halo tournament and just having fun.
We kind of just found each other, I guess, and really soon after we started talking, we just became best friends.
We basically grew up together. We were like brothers.
He was just the best brother I could ever ask for. He touched my life. Every time I saw Brandon, I had a smile on my face. Anytime anything went wrong, he was always there to help me. He impacted my life so much and always put a smile on my face.
Sarah was the front seat passenger in a car driven by a 16-year-old who lost control on a curve 1 mile from her home and slid into the path of an oncoming SUV. The driver was speeding.
She just had so much joy that she brought to her dad and I. She was very social. We'd have somebody spend the night here every weekend, and she wanted people around her all the time. Last year she went to homecoming. So we were looking at all these dresses, and I'd pick out one, and she goes, "Oh yeah, oh that's nice." And so she'd still be looking, and so finally we found this beautiful gold dress, and she put it on, and she just looks so beautiful. It does bring up something that's very painful, because she was buried in that dress with the pearls. With the wrap, even the shoes. Yeah.
Approximately about 4 months ago, when I was at Palmer High School, we were talking about car crashes, and I'll go there and speak to the kids. I got done speaking one time, and I noticed there was a young lady in the crowd that just stood there. She didn't go. It looked like she was kind of upset, but I didn't know what it was for. So I wanted to ask her, see what's going on. And I found out it was one of Sarah's friends that went to Palmer High School who had just gotten a crash and died from the crash. You know, she watched her friend 1 second being alive. In a flash, looked at her friend again, and her friend wasn't there no more. I can't describe or understand how it feels to do that, but I can describe and understand how it is for family members or friends to look at you in a situation like I was in, like Sarah was in, like Corey was in. All of us could be in these situations, but they all could be prevented.
Tia lived in a rural community, and at a T intersection with a stop sign, she pulled out into the path of an oncoming pickup. She was not wearing a seatbelt.
The day Tia died actually started out really good. Someone had asked me that day, it's kind of ironic, because someone asked me how I was doing, and I told them that I was great and nothing could ruin my day.
TC was goofing off car surfing with his friends. The car was traveling less than 30 miles per hour on a neighborhood street. He fell off the car and died from traumatic brain injury.
My friend Erica called and asked me how I was, and I said I was fine, and she said, "Have you heard yet?" And I said, "No, heard what?" And she told me that Terrence was in the hospital and he'd been in an accident and that he had 1% chance to live. And I said, "That's not true." I said, "Why would you do that?"
Brandon left the party, and 1 block from home, he lost control of the vehicle while speeding and hit a tree. He had been drinking and was not wearing a seatbelt.
The night that he died, he was getting ready, and he asked if he looked okay, and I fixed him, and then he was leaving, and he said, "Have a good time," because I had to babysit my sister, and I said, "You too," and the last words that I said to him were, "Don't drive," and he said, "I won't."
Right when I saw Terrence fall, even while we were still going, I jumped out of the car and I ran to Terrence, and all I could do was just hold his head and look at him, and I didn't really know what to do. I just felt so helpless because his eyes were rolled back. He would sound like he was choking on his own blood, and I was just sitting there for a minute, and I don't 100% remember what happened just because all I remember is just holding him. All I could think of was just Terrence be all right.
You think that you're invincible, that nothing can ever, 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 ever affect you in any way, shape, or form. Because we're teenagers, nothing can hurt us. But the fact remains that everybody has life. And life can be taken away with the snap of a finger or a drop of a pen.
We walked in the room and he was in a bodysuit and his teeth had blood on them and his lips were just a mess and his head was wrapped and it didn't even look like him and he was on life support and we just stood there. We didn't know what to do, and part of me thought that if I talked to him, maybe he'd wake up, and when he didn't, that was even harder. We just stood there.
It was about 3 in the morning on that Saturday morning, and my parents came in my room and said that he was a block away and he ran into a tree and died.
Every single kid that our age feels immortal. We all did. We all do stupid things. They may not think it's going to happen to them. It's going to hurt bad when it does.
Then I went home, called my sister, and then that's when I lost it. I was like, she's gone.
That's when we found out that Sarah was gone.
Not a moment goes by that I don't think of a memory with him or miss him. I miss him all the time. Every day I think about him, I'll just look at this bracelet or look at the sky and I know he's up there. And
Corey was the passenger in a pickup traveling on the interstate. Allegedly, the driver was speeding and lost control of the truck, which rolled 2.5 times, killing Corey. allegedly alcohol was involved.
Right now, I'm in the fire station, as you can see, and just looking down on this other Corey. This other Corey that was just the same age as me, looks about just the same as me. And we were both of us Corys, we were both in car wrecks on an interstate. The only difference is between this Corey and me, this Corey didn't make it. And I guarantee Corey's parents would do anything to get themselves in my parents' shoes just to look at their son one more day.
In 1 second, life can be gone.
For a while, until I think I can really accept it, it just seemed kind of like a nightmare to go from just sitting at his house playing video games to looking at a headstone. It's just like the hardest thing I think a person can do. It forces you to grow up faster than you're meant to. I don't think I was ready for it. I don't think anyone can be.
You don't realize how big of a space people have in your lives until they're gone. And I just realized afterwards what big of a space she really did fill in my life. And I've never had a friend like her, and I don't think I ever will.
And sometimes I find myself doing laundry and thinking I should be doing her stuff. And, you know, just certain things hit you.
If there was one person I could say that would be the stereotype of an invincible teenager, it was Terrence. And he pushed his limit, really pushed his limits a lot of times. And just something so small as him falling off the back of a little car and can just take your life away like it's nothing. And even though it's probably impacted me more than my life has impacted me. And I was the type of person, I was always the type that say it can happen to somebody else, but it can't happen to me. But it just feels like to me that there's no way of knowing unless you know it personally. And for it to happen personally, there's not really much you can say other than it can happen to anybody. It really can.
It's really hard to know that he made a mistake and died from it. And I wish I could have done something to fix that, but I can't. And I wish he was still here today.
I just wish God had let me keep her for a little bit longer.
You don't ever want to see family or friends in a cemetery because of something that happened. Because it's probably the hardest thing that you can deal with. Because of something as little as what happened, you lose a better part of your life, which was a very good friend. People think that sleeping is the best part of the day or whatever, but for me it's waking up. Because then I know that the night is over and I don't have to worry about dreaming about what happened anymore.